Before we begin, if you enjoy story narrations like this, consider subscribing so you don't miss future ones.
The road into the Bois Mountains felt like the kind of road people only take when they're trying to leave something behind. On the afternoon of October 8, 2009, the Jamison family, Bois, Sherilynn, and their 6-year-old daughter Madyson, drove away from their home in Eufaula, Oklahoma, and headed toward a remote piece of land near Red Oak. It should have been an ordinary trip. They were reportedly interested in buying property in the mountains, possibly to live off-grid in a storage container they planned to convert into a home. To anyone looking from the outside, it may have seemed like another family chasing a quieter life, but almost. Everything about that day would later feel wrong. Security footage from outside the Jamisons' home captured the family packing their white pickup truck before leaving. Investigators and journalists who later reviewed the footage described the couple's movements as strange, slow, emotionless, almost trance-like. Bois and Sherilynn repeatedly walked back and forth between the house and the truck without speaking much to each other. There was no visible panic, no argument, no urgency, just an eerie silence and detached movements that would later become one of the most discussed details of the case. At one point in the footage, Bois carefully loaded a brown briefcase into the truck. That briefcase would never be found again. Days passed after the family disappeared. Friends and relatives grew concerned when no one could reach them. Calls went unanswered. Messages piled up. Then, about a week later, searchers discovered the Jamisons' pickup truck abandoned deep in Latimer County, Oklahoma, miles away from civilization. What they found inside only deepened the mystery. The truck contained the family's wallets, IDs, cell phones, GPS devices, and personal belongings. Roughly $32,000 in cash was also inside, bundled and untouched. For a family reportedly struggling financially, the amount seemed unusually large. Why would anyone disappear voluntarily and leave behind that much money? Even stranger, the family's dog Maisie was still alive inside the truck. The animal was severely malnourished, weak and dehydrated, but somehow had survived alone for days trapped in the vehicle. Investigators later said it looked as though the family had intended to return quickly. Nothing about the scene suggested a planned disappearance. Sherilynn's handgun, however, was missing. So was the brown briefcase from the surveillance footage. The area surrounding the truck was rugged and isolated. Thick woods, rocky terrain, winding dirt roads, and steep hills that became dangerous after dark. Search teams combed the mountains for weeks. Helicopters scanned the forests. Volunteers searched on foot. But there was no sign of Bois, Sherilynn, or little Madyson. It was as if the mountains had swallowed them whole. As months turned into years, theories multiplied. Some believed the family had been murdered. Others suspected Bois and Sherilynn may have been involved in criminal activity connected to the unexplained cache. There were rumors of drugs, cults, land disputes, and paranoia. Friends described Sherilynn as deeply interested in spiritual warfare and the supernatural. Bois's father publicly claimed the couple had acted fearful in the weeks leading up to their disappearance, convinced that someone was threatening them. Another disturbing detail emerged from investigators. Bois and Sherilynn's relationship had reportedly become unstable before they vanished. There were claims of arguments, emotional strain, and financial problems. Yet none of it clearly explained why an entire family would disappear into the Oklahoma wilderness without a trace. Then came one of the strangest details of all. Cell phone records indicated the family's phones had pinged near the same area where the truck was eventually discovered. This suggested they likely never made it far from the mountain roads. If that was true, where were they? For 4 years, nobody had an answer. Then, in November 2013, hunters walking through a remote wooded area in Latimer County made a horrifying discovery: scattered skeletal remains. Authorities were called immediately. Forensic investigators spent days recovering bones from the forest floor. The remains belonged to 2 adults and 1 child. In July 2014, the Oklahoma medical examiner officially confirmed the identities: Bois Jamison, Sherilynn Jamison, Madyson Jamison. The family had been found less than 3 miles from where their truck had sat abandoned all those years earlier. But the discovery solved almost nothing because of the advanced decomposition. Investigators could not determine a cause of death. There was no definitive evidence of murder, suicide, exposure, or accident. No clear signs of trauma remained on the bones. The medical examiner could not explain how all 3 died or what had happened during their final hours in the mountains. The case officially remained unsolved, and that's where the real unease begins. If the family had simply become lost, why leave behind phones, money, and supplies in the truck? Why walk into rough wilderness with a 6-year-old child? If someone murdered them, where was the evidence? Why was the cash untouched? Why was the briefcase missing? And why did the surveillance footage before they vanished look so disturbingly unnatural? Sheriff Israel Bois, who worked the case, openly admitted investigators believed the disappearance was suspicious from the beginning. He pointed specifically to the missing handgun and briefcase as potentially important clues. The way the truck was parked also suggested the family may have stopped intentionally, possibly to meet someone they knew, but no suspect was ever identified, no arrests were ever made, no proven explanation ever emerged. Over time, the Jamison family case transformed into one of America's most haunting modern mysteries because it resists simple answers. Every theory seems to explain one part while creating new questions somewhere else. Murder leaves missing evidence. Suicide leaves missing motive. Accident leaves missing logic. And voluntary disappearance leaves behind too much money, too many personal belongings, and a starving dog waiting for owners who never returned. Today, the Bois Mountains remain quiet. The dirt roads still wind through thick Oklahoma woods. Travelers passing through Latimer County might never realize they are driving near one of the most unsettling, unsolved family cases in modern American history. A family of 3 drove into those mountains in 2009. Only their silence ever came back out.
Did the story send chills down your spine? And from which city are you tuning in tonight? Let's meet in the comments. If you enjoyed this dark tale, you can support me with a super thanks so I can keep uncovering more gripping true crime stories for you. Thank you so much for your support. It helps me bring even more suspenseful narratives to life. I'm looking forward to your thoughts on this mystery. There's a lot more waiting for you on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you in the next chilling story with intrigue and respect.